All right, it's a little after 6 there. Oh, it's good lord, it's 20 minutes to 7. But you know what? The
Oh, now I
microphone.
can hear you.
Ha 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 ha. See what happened there? All right, let's do this. Yeah, when I get the time, baby. All right, so what are we talking about this morning, Cameroon?
Well, you watched the debate. Nope, I have that backwards. I watched the debate. Well, most of it, and you did not. And
That's
why
right.
that is.
I just didn't bother. Um, it's become glaringly apparent, and I am not alone in this. Uh, I mean, it's just become apparent that this is a little bit older article, but I couldn't they haven't released the viewership numbers on last night's debate, but I venture to guess it's going to be around the 4 million mark, um, if that high. The first one got like 15 or no, I think it was 18 million views on the first Democrat debate, and by the time this article's about the fourth, and this was what, the seventh. The one last night was the seventh.
Honestly, I don't even know. It has just turned my brain into pudding.
But yeah, they were down to 8.7 million as of the fourth one, and there have been two or three, maybe four. See, I've lost track of it. It's gotten so measly and pitiful. Um, because here's the
And
thing: not one person on that stage has anything new or interesting to add to the conversation. And this is not just a problem of the current Democrat crop. That is the Democrat Party in living memory. Since before Reagan, the Democrat platform has been as simple as: we will take money from other people at gunpoint to buy your votes with. You may either vote for us and be the people on whose behalf we rob the others, or you may be the robbed. That's the platform. That's the Democrat platform, all day, every day. The Democrat Party are precisely the sorts of millionaires and billionaires that they constantly rail against, and they go on and they lie and lie and lie about things like, oh, it's a tax cut for the rich. Oh? Oh? In the 20s, when the top marginal rate was finally reduced from 73% down to 24%, um, an interesting thing happened. Suddenly, the very, very wealthy were paying a much larger percentage of the total revenue. It went from the top 10% of earners, the 100,000 plus bracket. Remember, we're talking 1920s dollars, so that's akin to several $1 million per annum of revenue, modern currency, because of inflation. All of a sudden, the top 10% were paying a third of all the taxes, and the bottom 30% or so at the same time went from having been paying about 15% of all the taxes to paying not point a quarter, less than 1% of all the taxes. There has never been a case in which the taxes have been reduced in the United States. No, the income tax specifically. I'm sorry, clarify. There has not yet in U.S. history been a case where taxes on income were reduced without a consequent and immediate economic boom coupled with increased tax revenue because you're taking a smaller slice of a much larger pie. These people, these pitiful jackanape mountebanks, these con artists are pretending like those tax cuts are bad for the American people. And you're talking about people who make so much money without working to earn it. Now this is true of the Republicans as well. Politicians do not earn money. Politicians are what they are is they're very successful beggars. They are the best panhandlers on the planet.
I'm reminded of the Beggars Guild from Terry Pratchett's book. And if you were the top beggar, you couldn't just ask for $1. You had to ask for jewelry and mansions and stuff like that. That's what you had to beg for. And there's a humorous little moment where the head of the Beggars Guild is like, yeah, it's a lot tougher to go around asking people if they've got summer cottages that they'd be willing to spare. There's not as many of them to go around. But this is what the politician has figured out how to leverage. They are in many ways the bum on the street corner. They're just better at hiding their addictions and vices, and they're much more eloquent and are better able to ask. But it's what it amounts to. They're going to ask. Only there's another important distinction. When they ask, there's the implied threat underneath. Like they can, it's like that old thing. It says, okay, can you get killed over not wearing your seatbelt? Well, you
Yes.
can. Yeah. Did get pulled over, get written a ticket, refuse to pay the ticket, refuse to go to court when the bench warrant gets sworn out for your arrest. And then when the cops finally do come to your door, refuse to cooperate, refuse to let them in, refuse to be arrested. And there's a good chance you'll end up dead by the end of that encounter, all over what is in most, like a $25 to $50 seatbelt ticket.
Yeah, quite simply, if the ultimate result is not possibly your death, then the thing that you're discussing is not law.
Well, it's the government's monopoly on violence. And the left is so enamored with the government because they want the power. They want the new world. Have you seen the thing that O'Keefe dropped?
About Elizabeth Warren voters being hung up on vaginas?
No. One of O'Keefe's reporters got a Bernie staffer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were referencing the thing where supposedly Bernie said a woman couldn't win. Did you check out the other stuff that guy said about how re-education camps aren't really that bad and serve a purpose? And it's like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Basically, what O'Keefe came out with is the Bernie campaign is pro-Gulag.
Oh, yeah. Like they look up to Mao and they look up to Stalin.
Yeah, and there's a big difference here. Usually if you hear a politician suggest that his opponent is pro-Gulag or pro-Auschwitz, it's a smear. It's hyperbole at best. But no. O'Keefe released candid conversations with Bernie staffers who quite unironically are pro-Gulag.
And they're not just pro-Gulag. And this is something you know and I know. But they're always going to turn on each other and eat each other first. And the guy said when it's time to line people up against the wall and shoot them, he actually wants to start with the milquetoast Democrats before he goes into the racist Republicans, because they're the bigger betrayers. They should know better. And they're the ones that were the reactionaries to the revolution, which is a lot of what happened down in Cuba with Che Guevara and Fidel Castro. So this is your modern Democrat Party. And this is just a thought, and it really only occurred to me last night. A People's History of the United States came out in the early 80s. And a lot of what you see as the narrative for things like Christopher Columbus was this terrible person. And in a lot of ways he was, but in a lot of other ways he was actually very normal for his time. Like he didn't do anything exceptionally bad. Um, and all the stuff about the founders being slave owners and the country's born in original sin, and for 500 years, we've been nothing but this terrible place. Everything that like the 1619 project would be based out of, all
Boy,
started with
that
that
died on the
book.
vine, didn't it?
I mean, they're still trying to plug along with it. It didn't have the splash that I think they thought it would have. And it all came from an author who was an active member of the American Communist Party. And I am suggesting that the average rhetoric from your average Democrat politician is maybe once or twice removed, but nonetheless based on a book written by a communist who deliberately took half the story and presented it as though it was the whole monolithic story. And the whole point was to say America bad, capitalism in particular bad. We need to go more toward an egalitarian collectivist society. So when you hear about the redistribution of wealth and the fairness of the taxes, that it all comes from that, at least in the modern sense. And that's what was on stage last night. Like, Elizabeth Warren has her whole "I've got a plan for that" thing. Well, Elizabeth Warren's plan for that is I'm going to tax this person and give the money to that person because fairness.
Yeah. Elizabeth Warren's plan for that is $3 trillion in new taxes.
Yeah.
That's an OMB number. That's not an out of my backside number. That's if we do everything Liz Warren is proposing, we're looking at $3 trillion in new taxes.
See, and just to bring
Really?
it back to
Go ahead.
just to bring it back to CNN, um, I get up early in the morning and work, so quite frankly, I fell asleep somewhere around the halfway point of the debate. So I didn't see everything, and maybe I'm apparently wrong. But as far as the moderators pressing in on the candidates about how difficult it would be to accomplish some of these goals, if for no other reason than how much money it would cost, there was none of that. And what's funny is CNN could have had the biggest debate of this entire pre-election cycle. And even if they didn't have people tune into it, they could have set up a situation where all of us were talking about it the next day. And they just didn't. They could have asked these questions. It's like, hey, so where exactly are you going to get $3 extra trillion a year? I mean, that basically doubles the federal budget, and we're already running a deficit of a little less than to a little more than $1 trillion a year. And we're doing that with an economy that's absolutely on fire, with a sub 4%, excuse me, with a sub 4% unemployment rate.
Yeah, we have full employment right now.
So where are you going to get that money? And when the economy slows down, as it always inevitably does. There's always peaks and troughs. It's a fact of life. What then? Then where are you going to get the $3 trillion when there's a smaller tax base to pull it from? But
Open
no,
borders.
yeah, unfortunately, you ain't wrong.
um, and the level of the rhetoric, it's just. The other night I was listening to. I love that. I love that the old stuff's up there. I listened to some Milton Friedman doing an interview with Donahue. We talked about that a little bit, I think, yesterday. I also listened to, a couple nights ago, the interview with William F. Buckley interviewing Ronald Reagan when Reagan was running in 80. So back then, the rhetoric against Reagan was basically the same stuff as with Trump. There was a little less Hitler, but they did say Reagan was the same as Hitler. But it was, oh, he's old, he's crazy, he's gonna get us into World War III, he's gonna start a nuclear war with Russia. It, I mean, honestly, you could take any headline about Trump today, and from the main core media, um,
The main
and
core.
substitute whatever the
I'm sorry.
mainstream media, and substitute Reagan's name for Trump's name, and neither headline would look out of place in either time period. They they literally just have, okay, uh, evil Hitler. He's in league with the Russians. Not even with the enemy. It was even still the Russians, but somehow the Russians weren't the greatest threat to or greatest foreign policy threat when Romney was running against Obama.
Yeah, and then supposedly just a few years later, they helped Donald Trump steal the election.
Yeah.
And and
Excuse me.
the media enables this behavior. The very first question was posed by Wolf Blitzer, and his question included language. I can't quote it exactly, but he basically said, um, uh, "We're gonna, Senator so and so, we're gonna start with you. A few days ago, Donald Trump brought us to the brink of a war with Iran. Why would you be a better commander in chief?" And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Brought us to the brink of war with
Right.
Iran.
That's a factually false statement.
Well, and it's the priming. It's the fact that he even puts the sentence out
Right.
there, so we keep it in people's top of mind. Oh, Donald Trump almost did it. Almost did it. Now, Donald Trump could have did it. Oh, in fact, Donald Trump could have made war inevitable. But and we talked about this on our show, the fact that Soleimani was killed in Baghdad. No, that's a clean shoot. And if you if you try and pay attention to things, apparently the authorization to kill Soleimani was given months ago. And Donald Trump actually had to be talked into it because Donald Trump does not want to ratchet up hostility, despite what you hear in any mainstream news outlet.
Yeah, let me
Uh,
put a bow on that real quick.
Go ahead.
Let me Donald Trump is an unrepentant, devout capitalist. And quite frankly, dead people can't spend money. Now, when people die, you can tax the shit out of their estate. Democrats love dead people.
Which I think is far and away the most evil tax that exists on our books.
Uh, no, property tax, 100%. The death tax is terrible, but the property tax is the worst.
Or maybe
Um,
that's its own show. And maybe
yeah,
I just find that one the most personally offensive.
it's it's
But
it's morally offensive, but until there is no tax on property, until a man can own a home and voluntarily not engage with society. As long as it's not possible in the United States for you to own a home and a piece of land and grow food and be self-sufficient and left alone, then freedom is not a thing that exists in a meaningful way.
Well, man, they're honest with you when you buy a house. They call it a mortgage. And you know mortgage means debt
Yes,
until
until
death.
death.
There's your lesson for the day, kiddies.
Yep, a little French for you. All right. And
WTF, CNN, yeah.
just
Thanks for making our Wednesday segment easy every week.
Yep. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference in the rhetoric, how it's changed since the 80s, but we're at 20 minutes, and I'm tired of talking about Democrats. Look, you're lazy, you're dumb, you're a bunch of professional beggars. Go hang your sandwich signs on the park bench and beg.
And beg for your $1 million mansions, a la Terry Pratchett.
You pitiful, pitiful ingrates. But original thought, not Yeah, I'm done. I'm out.
Yep, good enough for
Be safe,
me.
kids. Time to go to work. We'll see you tomorrow.
Oh yeah, People's History of the United States.